What up, guys? Welcome to the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Today we have Dan. How do you say his last name? Manasoiu. I don't know.
Big Dan.
Big Dan from New Wave. He's getting ready for the ADCC championships and some of the open tournaments. And he was a guy that I watched last year. I guess it was almost 2 years ago at the West Coast Trials back in I guess was it 2021? Feels like forever ago.
Or was 2020? Was out there?
It was 2022. It was the beginning of 2022. So watch him at the West Coast Trials. He super good guy. I didn't know who he was at the time. It's just this big guy that was going through, and everybody was like, "Hey, he's a blue belt," leg locking people, and he made it to the finals. And it was a close finals match. He lost on a strategic error.
Oh wow!
You know what I mean? Like, which I think if the match was. Watching him compete now, if he was competing in the match, I think he wins that match.
Yeah.
Again, because it was more of a thing that he did that sort of caused it, right? But since then, obviously, he's been winning a lot of stuff. He's been doing really well for himself, and getting better and better. And so I wanted to have him on the podcast, and so sent a message out. We had him on. For any of you guys that are sensitive to such things, it doesn't bother me. But if you are sensitive to language, we drop some F-bombs and stuff like that. Again, I don't really care, but if that's something that bothers you, then just know that's there. Maybe you want to listen to a different episode should you have such sensitivities.
So it's good. It's a great episode. Great talking to him.
Yeah. And
he's
again,
got plenty of fun, interesting information. And man, it was fun.
Yeah. And if you guys don't already know who he is, I would definitely go check his stuff out. Again, it's fun watching a big guy who's incredibly technical and goes for the finish with submissions and has a very high rate of submissions. So go check him out and enjoy the podcast as we get into talking about some of his training strategies and stuff like that. Big thanks to our sponsors for helping make the podcast happen. Charlotte's Web CBD. Charlotte's Web is a CBD company. I don't know who the original CBD company was. They were the first one I ever heard about back in the day. And I remember hearing them say all these different, benefits and everything else about CBD. And back in the day, I thought it was originally I thought it was just snake oil, right? I was like, I don't know, whatever. And then I tried CBD for the first time, noticed the benefits for me, and continued to use it years later. And so again, they became a sponsor of the podcast. It's one of those products where I like the product. It's a good product. I've met a lot of the people that work at Charlotte's Web, and I know what their mission is behind the scenes. I know that obviously any business is about making money, but at the same time, their whole thing is about delivering a product that really does help people. And again, the start of the company, if you want to read the story about why they started the company, it's a beautiful story. It was always about that. And that's what sort of underlies everything for as far as their mission as a company. And so if you want to check them out and try CBD, I'm sure you've heard of it before if you've not already used it, or if you've tried other CBD products and you'd like to try something that's held to a higher standard than what's required because of the FDA regulation or lack thereof, then check them out at charlottesweb.com. The promo code, if you want to save 20% on the order, is Chewjitsu20. And then again, check them out. Personally, if you guys are curious, I use the tincture, I use the oil dropper, and I typically use 17 milligrams is the dropper. I use that once a day, usually at nighttime. I like it before I go to bed. It seems to help sort of improve these cycles of rest. It's something that also seems to help with recovery and the sports-induced inflammation that we get through jiu-jitsu. Also, thanks to Epic Roll. Rollbjj.com. If you guys have never been on their website and you're looking for some gear or some t-shirts or apparel or anything like that, anything jiu-jitsu related, I would check out Epic Roll. Our buddy Matt runs the website, does a great job of putting together cool looking designs with a high quality product and excellent customer service. And again, if you go there, just browse through it like you would a store, find whatever sort of catches your eye. And then if you find something you like, use the promo code Chewjitsu for 15% off the order. Again, I personally am sort of privy to their t-shirts and their gis and rash guard. Their rash guards, all that stuff's good, but I really like their no-gi shorts. They don't have he does have the traditional Velcro ones, but I like the ones that do not have Velcro. I find them incredibly comfortable to wear, and I've got a pair now that's been going. It's going on. It'll be like 3 years soon, and again, by this time, the Velcro of most shorts would have worn out. There's no Velcro. So that hasn't happened, and these shorts are still going strong. So again, for me, that's kind of a big plus. Comfort, and I can wear them for a long, long time, opposed to the Velcro that wears out. And again, small thing, but makes a big difference down the road. And again, you can use promo code Jiu-Jitsu for 15% off. Also, thanks to Manscaped. Manscaped is the premier men's grooming company. It used to be below the belt grooming was their thing. Now it's pretty much everywhere. They've got everything from beard trimmers, ball trimmers, which you can use for your body hair if you want to, like my wife does. She'll shear my back and stuff and get rid of all the fuzz on me, right?
You got a little bit right now.
I do right
You're
now.
ready.
Yeah, it's been about a month or so. You know what I mean? But left to my devices, and I'm sure there's a lot of guys out there that would relate with this. I would have my chest hair that would crawl up my neck, and I have that neck. I would grow the
Just
neck beard
attached to your beard.
It would just go, and then I would grow a unibrow. So basically, it would be from like eyebrows down. I mean, I would just be hairy, like
hairy monster. Yeah.
hairy monster. Yeah. You know what's so interesting is that I didn't really have any real chest or body hair until about 24, 25.
I did.
All of a sudden, it kicked on. You still don't have.
I could.
any.
No, I do. I do.
Oh, bro, that little patch on your chest.
Get
that's
out of
big.
here. I'm a man.
He's
What
got.
are you talking about?
You
I'm
got
a man.
man.
I'm a
I'm a
man.
man. MAYU man.
Man.
But regardless, if you are a man or you know a man in your life that wants to step up their grooming game, or if you want to get a good gift for a dude, again, it's a terrific products. I've used tons of stuff that they have, probably almost everything they have, not everything, but almost everything they have, from the beard trimmers to the other trimmers to the colognes, the balms, the body lotions, body what's that word? Body washes.
Yeah.
Everything's fantastic. Smells great.
And the underwear is not bad.
Everything's good. I haven't had anything that I've been like, man, this, sucks. And if you're thinking about it for a gift standpoint, everything, like when you get like the perfect package, like they've got their little perfect package that they deliver, it comes in a really nice box, which again, this is something I think about is like with stuff, there's so much digital stuff now that like when you get something in a box, it's like Christmas again, especially for adults, right? So their perfect package has like all the trimmer and all that stuff that's in it. It's a really nice package. So when you open it up, you feel like you're getting a gift. And so if you guys check them out, you can go on their website, Manscaped. And again, the promo code is Jiu-Jitsu20. That'll save you 20% off the order, and you'll get free shipping, which is a great deal. Check it out, and you can go to their website at manscaped.com. Also, if you want to support the podcast directly, you can do so by going to Patreon at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And when you join, you'll get access to an exclusive library that has a podcast guest episode, like a short clip from one of the episodes with some tangible, actionable tip that you can implement with your jiu-jitsu there from all of our guests that we've ever had on the podcast. There's also things like unedited rolling, narrated rolls, warm-up routines, the whole deal. So there's a ton of cool stuff. Plus, you get access to a version of the podcast that does not have ads. If you don't want to listen to ads, and you can access that again by going to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And again, it's for an inexpensive price. You get access to all of that. And last but not least, guys, if you want to get my daily email, get exclusive offers to different products that I have and events that I have going on, then go to my website at jujitsu.net/join. Upon joining, you'll get access to my daily email, which can be everything from philosophical ramblings to very specific jiu-jitsu tips. You'll also get 2 free ebooks. One is to help you break through jiu-jitsu training plateaus, which happens with a lot of people, and you can do this very simply with drilling strategies and training strategies. The other one is to help you develop a game plan for your jiu-jitsu. And then with that, you'll then get access to my daily email, which goes into all that stuff. And you can unsubscribe at any time. But again, if you want to join, jujitsu.net/join. And so, guys, with that said, let's jump into this podcast with Dan.
Did you get your injection today?
I did, right here.
What
So
happened?
I literally just got done from getting the stem cells done. So
What was going on with the elbow?
oh no, it's intravenous. So it's just
Okay.
it's my entire body. Yeah.
Have you done it before?
I had it done for my knee before when I had my meniscus repair. So
Okay. So what's the advantage of going intravenous? I've seen people talk about it, but like from experience, like what have you noticed from it? Because I don't know.
I've never gone intravenous before. I've only
Okay.
had an injection inside of my knee.
Okay.
And when I had it done inside of my knee, I came back to jiu-jitsu after 3 months instead of a year. So they helped out immensely.
Oh, wow. Oh, so okay.
Was this after, like you said, you had a meniscus issue? Did they surgically repair it,
Yeah.
or what was it? A repair? Or was it a just a shaving?
I had a meniscus repair done, not a shaving.
Oh, wow. And you were back to 3 months afterwards.
Yeah, I won trials 5 months after my meniscus repair.
Whoa.
Yeah.
For anybody that doesn't know, like a meniscus repair, not the ones where they clean it out, but the actual repair,
Yeah.
typically that's a long time because they have to lock that sucker in place. It doesn't bear weight for a while. That's
Yeah.
intense. What do you think about that, Eugene? Because he's a physical therapist, so that like his gears are turning.
Yeah, so people don't realize, like, initially you did the smart thing because, like, you're looking at, how old are you right now?
I'm 21 now.
21, dude. You're looking at your whole like life, training for 20 years at a high level, maybe. And so, like, if you can keep all of your tissue intact, like, I mean, that's so important because otherwise, if you cut that stuff out, it's kind of the quick fix, but it starts to cause problems down the line. So you did the right thing. But man, coming back, what, 3 months?
Yeah.
That's
3 months back to training. I did my first competition 3 months after.
Dude,
I got second at West Coast Trials 4 months after. I won trials 5 months after.
How did you so were you with like working with a doctor or a physical therapist on the way back, or you just kind of did your own thing?
Just did my own thing. Physical therapy was just too expensive, but all the exercises that they have you do, you can find them online. So I was just doing those every day.
Yeah,
like
I think
an hour a day.
I think so. The thing with physical therapy is they can monitor that you're doing the right stuff at the right time. So you don't overdo it, because jiu-jitsu guys love to overdo it. And the other thing is like getting back to training, like kind of safely. That's kind of where I feel like I help a lot, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just gonna go back to training,
But that's if you get a good PT.
Yeah,
like a PT that actually knows about.
But most PTs don't know shit about jiu-jitsu, and they're like, all right, you can walk, you can bend your knee, you can straighten it. All right, off you go. But man, that's how did you go back? Like, what was that like for you? Were you kind of nervous initially? Were you kind of trying to protect yourself? What was the process like?
The thing about having knee surgery is that your leg is just completely straight. You can't bend your leg. So your leg's just stuck like this.
Yeah.
And every single day, the goal is just to try and get it closer and closer. And I started rolling around a little bit when I was able to touch my heel to my butt. And that was a fucking, like, the shit you take for granted, being able to touch your heel to your ass. Like, that was extremely difficult.
Yeah.
It feels like your leg's going to explode whenever you move it.
All the swelling and stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, that being said, I just got back into it. I had stem cells. I was taking peptides. Even though I wasn't doing jiu-jitsu, I was lifting weights to get bigger, to get stronger, just to keep my mind off of shit, because I can't train. So,
yeah, was that the main thing? Main thing you did, just like lifting weights and just kind of keeping strong. Yeah,
watching jiu-jitsu, still learning, studying, teaching. I was doing all of that, but with a bad leg.
And so with the intravenous stuff, so that was site specific for the meniscus. So with the intravenous, what's the idea behind that?
The idea between intravenous is that it goes to your entire body, and wherever there's inflammation, it starts attacking wherever there's inflammation. So if there's any injuries I have in my body, let's say I don't know about, the IV stem cells should be able to help me with that.
Okay.
That's a great idea. Kind of like physical therapy. People don't think about physical therapy as like a maintenance thing, but you can definitely check on things. You go to a physical therapist, for example, kind of like you go to your dentist to get, cleaning or something. May not be anything wrong, but you go to physical therapy. If you have someone you trust, have them watch you move and take you through some movements. It can be helpful to kind of like, hey, you got a little issue here, or the muscles aren't quite working like they need to, or the shoulder's not moving like it needs to. Let's address it, give you a couple things, send you on your way, and hopefully it doesn't turn into a problem. So it's kind of like a smart preventative way to kind of address it. So I think, if you don't have anything crazy going on, I mean, you can do the IV treatment. It seems like it's been. Do you have to do that again?
It's not gonna hurt. It's just nice to have. It's a nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, and if we're doing jiu-jitsu, we're always getting banged up, and especially if you're competing, at a high level, and especially watching like some of the EBI matches and stuff where you're getting to points where you're at the in ranges and having people yank on your arms or whatever, and still fighting out of it. It's one of those things where we're probably getting small little injuries that we don't necessarily feel. Yeah. And so they're probably adding up, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's true. You're always kind of fighting something whenever you're doing jiu-jitsu, whether it be an opponent or injuries. Nobody ever goes into a competition 100%.
Right.
So, like before the ADCC Arizona Open, I was completely fucked. Like my back, my neck was killing me because me and Gordon decided to try and kill each other one day, and then I got sick a week before, so I was out of jiu-jitsu for a couple of days because I just straight up got sick, like fever, all that fun stuff. And then I also caught staph at the same time. So I had staph, sickness, and a hurt neck. And then when I went to Arizona, it was 120 degrees out. They had us competing in this hot fucking room. And it's just like, it sucks the water right out of you. So every single one of my matches, I was just cramping my ass off. So, but I still won. And nonetheless, you know, you never go into something 100%.
Well, and when you're getting ready, like when you're training hard for a competition, you're typically, and this is something I always noticed is like when I was training hard, I had to be really careful because you're always kind of skirting that line of overtraining. You're trying to get as much as you possibly can in. And a lot of times I always notice people, like whether they're cutting weight or if they're just training really hard, towards the end of like their camp, they would start getting sick. They would get injuries. They would get, like I said, staph infections because their bodies just run down from, 6 to 8 weeks of really pushing it. And, you become more susceptible to things. So again, especially like you said, when you're training really hard, something preventative and just throwing it down the hatch to deal with anything that you don't know about is important. I'm curious, how did you get started in jiu-jitsu anyway? I don't know the story behind that.
Yeah, so it's kind of complicated. Like my first time ever doing jiu-jitsu was when I was 14, and I just did it for like 2 or 3 months, and it was cool. But then I stopped because I'm a dumb 14-year-old. But I actually met a girl on a school field trip, and she did karate. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'll go to her karate school. Went to the karate school, did karate for like 4 or 5 months, and then
The things guys do for girls.
Things we do for her. I actually wasn't even interested. I wasn't even interested in her, believe it or not.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like, no, it wasn't even like that. I'm just like, all right, I guess I'll fucking train karate. She invited me, I'll go. But I trained karate for a couple months, and in the karate, we did like a little bit of like grappling. Like we just did something where it's like we just like grabbed each other, right? It wasn't like we were doing like kata or whatever. We were grappling each other, and I'm like, this is cool. So I asked the sensei, and I'm like, hey, can we do some grappling? He's like, I'm not a grappling coach. I'm like, oh. Well, fuck. All right, I guess I'll join a jiu-jitsu school, So I remember I went to a jiu-jitsu school. This is when I was 15 back in New York City. And the name of the school was Class 1 Mixed Martial Arts. This was in Brooklyn. And the only reason I found it because I went on Yelp and I'm like, okay, MMA school. Let's see, whatever's good. I want to train jiu-jitsu, go to an MMA school. And I remember I took the class and I was just like, afterwards, I had the craziest fucking forearm pump. I was like, my forearms feel like fucking iron right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember I was like, I need this. So I started training then. And then, I moved away from New York City to Pennsylvania, and I started training at a gym in Pennsylvania, Renzo Gracie Pocono. Well, it wasn't always Renzo Gracie Pocono, but it was Renzo Gracie Pocono. I went there for a couple of years. It was cool, but it just wasn't necessarily what I wanted. And eventually, when I was 17, I'm like, hey, I want to do this for a living. I really love it. Gordon was killing it in jiu-jitsu back then. And I'm like, all right, well, I got to start training with a better fucking team, don't I? And the little gym in the middle of bumblefuck Pennsylvania wasn't going to do it for me. It's like I need good training partners. I need a great instructor. I need somebody who could take me to the highest level. So I started commuting from Pennsylvania to New York City just to be able to train with John Danaher. This was like in 2019 is when I first started training with them. So I was like 17 at the time. Or like 17, I was there.
How long was that commute?
Oh, it was like 6 to 8 hours depending on traffic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's like the drive itself is 2 hours, but then I have to drive to the bus stop. That's 20 minutes. I have to show up 20 minutes early because you need a buffer time. It's like, and then you have to go when you're at the bus at Port Authority. You have to take the bus one stop from Port Authority to Penn Station, where Renzo Gracie Academy, New York was. So all in all, just driving to the place, getting there, waiting, because waiting's a part of a commute. It took me like 6 to 8 hours.
Okay.
How many times did you do that? Like a week? Would you do it like a weekly?
Every day. Every day, yeah.
Every day?
Yeah. Except for the weekends. I trained at another school in Pennsylvania. I trained at Pride Lands MMA with Jason Ratchford.
Okay. And then, so what was it like when you got into Renzo Gracie New York? What was that like?
Man, I got fucked up. I got fucked up. Man, it was just straight killers, man. Those mats were something else. Some of the best memories ever on those mats at Renzo's New York. And I trained with them. I kept trying to get better, and then we moved to Puerto Rico. And I was thankful enough to be invited to move to Puerto Rico. Mo Jassam, God bless him, I owe him everything. He helped me out. I was I'm still stupid. I was more stupid. That stupid 19-year-old with no real money. No money to be able to pay for shit. Mo paid my rent for a year just because he's such a nice guy. And I was able to live in Puerto Rico and train with the squad. And then, you know, stuff happened. Then we moved to Austin. I'm in Austin, having a great time.
Yeah. What about like when did that happen for you that you decided, like, was there something specific that happened? You're like, I want to do this forever. Like, this is what I want to do, or I want my career to be this. Do you have a specific instance, or was it just kind of a combination of events?
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple of things going on in my life where I really had to start deciding, like, what the fuck am I going to do with my life? You know, it's like, what the actual fuck am I going to do with my life? And I said it in 3 different branches, okay? Because I didn't get good grades in school. I was in online school, so that's why I was able to start training with them when I was 17. But I was in online school, and I was doing my online school on top of that. So my high school offered an online program. So sometimes I was in real high school, sometimes I was in online. Whenever I was in online, I could go from Pennsylvania to New York to go train. Anyway, I set my life in 3 different branches. I'm like, okay, there's 3 ways I'm going to do this. The first one is I'm going to go to the military, play it straight for a couple of years, then go get a college degree and figure my life out from there. Okay, that's pretty much a pretty guaranteed life path, which is going to lead me to some level of success. 2 was I was just going to graduate high school, go directly into college, and do the same thing which everybody else does. 3, I'm going to fucking try and do martial arts for a living. I'm pretty sure I know which one I chose. I'm going to choose to do martial arts for a living. And it's been a beautiful journey, a lot of hardship, ups and downs. And there's still going to be a lot of ups and downs, but I'm having a great time doing it.
Yeah, I don't think there's there's really no path you pick that's not going to have any of them, right? Like, I mean, no matter what you pick, there's going to be some ups and downs. And later on, you kind of look at the downs and you're happy they happen, because without them, you know, you wouldn't have had the other side of it.
And the other thing is that I was very much like, I knew that if I picked anything else, I would be very, very unhappy, and I would constantly think about, what if I did this? And I don't want to have that what if. And let's just say I fuck up. Let's say even now, I'm 21 now, okay? Let's just say I don't want to do it and I want to go to college. I can do that. You know, I lose a couple of years, but I'm not going to do that because I love what I do. So I'd be wasting so much time invested, so much.
Yeah, well, and I love the idea that, you know, people don't make the right decisions. They make the decisions right. You know what I mean? So again, like, whatever you decide to choose, you know, whatever direction you go, if you stick with it long enough, you'll make it right. You know, if you want to, if you keep driving, getting after stuff, you'll make it right. Doesn't matter. There's no right decision to make, because that's like the illusion, right? When you get close to 18 and society's telling you, hey, you're supposed to have this shit figured out. Pick your life's goal now. And you're 18 years old. You have no idea what you're doing. You don't really have an idea what you're doing until you're like in your 20s, mid 20s, and have some semblance of what life has to offer. So good on you on taking the path right now that you want, and just like seeing what happens.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it. I'm thankful every day.
So here's a question. When you started going to Renzo's, training with John and all those guys, like, and obviously you've been around to a lot of places, what was one of the things that you noticed was very different when you walked in there to Renzo Gracie's in New York? You were rolling with the different people there, the environment in the gym. What was something different that you obviously was not the case at places like some of these other gyms that you've trained at?
Yeah, like small family gyms.
Sure. Whatever gyms you've trained at, something that you notice is a very stark difference there.
Well, it's just so damn professional, you know? You got John leading the class, who has just perfected jiu-jitsu technique, teaching you the absolute best stuff he has to offer by far. Then you have all of his students who are just straight up animals, winning everything, killing the competition. And then you have people who are trying to be like his top level competitors, and you just have a level of jiu-jitsu so high in a room that's just unfathomable. And you got random guys you don't even know. So like, one of my most fond memories, I'm like, I thought I was the shit, you know, like I was this big 16, 17-year-old, 280 pounds, fucking got my blue belt. I felt like I was great. I saw this dude across the mat, Brian Ridley, nickname's the Darce Knight, son of a bitch. I see him, and I'm like, I'm gonna fuck this guy up. He was like 6'4", 190 pounds with a 7-foot wingspan, just fucking big, long. I'm like, I could eat this guy alive. Dude, he beat the living shit out of me that day. Every single position I could have ever imagined. He was fucking leg locking me. He kept strangling me over and over again, just fucking me up. I'm just like, what the fuck is this? This fucking skinny motherfucker just fucked me up like that. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I got to do it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the right reaction to have, right? Because it's
Yeah.
interesting when you watch some people. Obviously you were looking for that. So when you got your ass kicked by all these people, you're like, yes, this is what I need. I want to be
Yeah.
here. Because some people shy away from that. Like they go to a rough room, they go to a tough room where they're not the big dog or they're not doing well, and they kind of shy away from it because it's not what they. It kind of it's a little hit to the ego a little bit. So
Sorry. What can you do?
Dan, how did you so going in, getting handled pretty well when you were at Renzo's? Like, how did you start to close the gap, like the skill gap? What did you start doing? Did you kind of start to emulate anyone's game? Did you look for anyone? What did you do to start to get your game to kind of catch up?
Everything will find its way if you spend times on the mat. I just said that the more time I could possibly spend on the mat, the better. If I was training every single day, everything will find its way. It's not a thing of like going in with a plan, but coming in and making the right decisions based off of what's presented in front of me. Like if I would have told myself from 3 years ago, hey, you're going to go train at Renzo's for a little bit, then you're going to move to Puerto Rico, and then you're going to move to Austin, be like, you're fucking lying to me. This is bullshit. So it's not something I could have planned. The idea was for me to fucking be at Renzo Gracie Academy in New York City forever, fucking live close to my fucking, like keep going from Pennsylvania to New York, like that was my life goal. And then eventually, that's that. Figure it out. Well, that shit didn't happen. It changes. So, and I don't know where I'm going to be in the next 3 years. I have a rough idea, but then again, I also had a rough idea back then.
mm-hmm.
So you never truly know what's going to happen. And the biggest thing was just making the right decisions based on what was faced in front of me and just having faith in my instructor to teach me correctly. Because I don't know shit about jiu-jitsu. John knows a lot about jiu-jitsu. I don't know nothing about jiu-jitsu. So I just listen to whatever John says because he's been doing the shit for 30 years and he's been teaching for like 10 to 15 hours a day for that time. Like he has spent a lot of time on those mats and has a lot of experience. So whenever he talks, you got to listen because he definitely knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, and John and a lot of those guys back then, they had a great advantage where, I remember talking to Sean Williams about this. It was like, you'd have guys like Hodger and all these amazing jiu-jitsu practitioners just coming through the room. And so you're able to, pull in some of that knowledge and sort of add it to your own. And then you take a guy like John, who obviously is an incredibly intelligent person and looks at things in a very unique way. And he's able to break those down and into a unique system for himself and being able to pull from all those different, world champions. Right. So for you, I'm curious about your like daily training routine. It may be different, but for people listening, like what is your daily routine? If on an average day when you're training, getting ready for something like a hard training day, what does that look like for you? Are you lifting in the morning?
What's my daily like?
Daily, like, yeah, roughly.
Yeah. So my day is basically every single day is always the same except for Tuesday, Thursday, and the weekends. So let's say a Monday, I wake up at 7 a.m. I go to training at 8 a.m. and I train from 8 a.m. to 10 with John at the morning session. After that, I go home, I eat something, and then I teach a private lesson from 11 to 12 o'clock. After that, I do stuff that I need to do around the house, laundry, just house stuff. And then I go and I train again at 3, from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. After that, I teach a private lesson from 5 to 6, and then I teach a private lesson from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. So I'm training twice a day, and I'm teaching 3 times a day. And I felt like teaching helped me out a lot in my jiu-jitsu because you learn something twice. The first time somebody teaches it to you, and the first time you teach it to somebody else. And I'm constantly rehearsing in my head, making techniques conscious rather than subconscious. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I lift in the mornings. And on the weekends, we don't have morning class, so I fill that up with some private lessons, or if I'm feeling extra beat up, I give myself the ability to sleep in a little bit. But every single day is filled with a lot of teaching, a lot of training, and stuff that is important for my jiu-jitsu development.
Cool. And then what's the intensity of those training sessions? Are they both like, is there like one that's like a hard session, one's more of a drilling session, or are they both just really intense training sessions where you're getting after it?
It depends. It depends. The thing is, like, we don't train extremely hard all the time because then you're just always going to be hurt and you're never going to want to train. Okay.
Right.
Like, for example, an 8 a.m. session is never going to be as intense as a 3 p.m. session. You know why? because it's 8 in the fucking
You
morning.
just woke up.
You just fucking woke up. Yeah, it's like, it's just the reality of shit, you know? And if we're just fucking scrapping now for ADCC, we were just fighting each other at like 8 in the fucking morning. We had John start us do these fucking exhausting fucking drills where you're just like, fuck. But it really depends on just the way the room looks. Sometimes there's a day we go extremely light. Everybody's fluent. Sometimes there's a day fucking everybody wraps up the intention. You hear it in John's voice. You see it in the way we're drilling, see the techniques we're drilling, and it's time to get after it.
Yeah.
Closer to competition, you know, it's time to get after it. But it's definitely like a more of a medium level of intensity that you could sustain year round. You don't want it to be too light that you don't get better, but you don't want it to be too hard that you're just having a bad time.
Gotcha. I think it's important because I think that sometimes, like I've just from talking with people with what I do, they watch like the highlight video that they'll see on Flow or the highlight video that they'll see. And they'll only have the clips of guys beating the living tar out of each other, and it's like that happens for sure. But there's a lot of really relatively boring looking training that's happening most of the time. Like you said, that's more sustainable to you year round that you're doing. That again doesn't make for a good highlight, but it makes for great training.
Yeah, like for example, John will have us drill stuff, and I'm just like, fuck, you know, this is nonsense. I mean, it's not nonsense. Don't get that wrong, but it's like, it's we're drilling the same thing over and over again. Well, guess fucking what? When you go out and compete, those things that seem so mundane are the things that win you matches. Like for example, somebody shoots on the legs, digging an underhook and pulling him up off your legs. We drill that all the time. It seems like such a mundane technique. You could teach anybody to do it. Well, we have to do it over and over again. Guess what? I had somebody shoot on my legs at the Submission Hunter Pro. I dug an overhook, not an underhook, and I lift him up. As he kept the push into me, I skied him with an Uchimata. All the drilling that John made us do in these positions that seem mundane was the reason why I was able to stop a shot and pick somebody's arm up into a throw. Stuff like that is really what wins you matches.
Then going back to that, then another question I guess to ask you, and this is another thing that comes up with people that I communicate with. There's like this thing in jiu-jitsu now where, again, there's different types of drilling, of course, but there's like guys that will say, "Oh, you don't drill anymore, just roll or whatever." The drilling is just there's no point in it, whatever. What is your thoughts on, and what has been your experience with drilling, and maybe the types of drilling that have been beneficial to you?
So that's a really good question, and I have a very good answer for it. A lot of people can't, when they drill something, drilling versus going live.
Yeah.
Let's just say you were never taught technique. And since you were a child, you just were on the mats doing jiu-jitsu with people. You didn't pay any attention to technique, and you just kind of watched stuff, saw what happened, and you just did jiu-jitsu. You just came and you rolled live. You'd be pretty fucking good, right? Now, let's say that you never did any of that, but you were taught technique and then you went into it. It's the same thing as learning a language versus speaking a language. Can you speak English? Yes, you can speak English, right? Can you teach me how to speak English? You can. So it's the difference doing jiu-jitsu versus learning how to do jiu-jitsu. A lot of people can do jiu-jitsu, but they can't teach you how to do jiu-jitsu or learn jiu-jitsu. But of course, the best is to do both, drilling in combination with live training.
Sure.
Hopefully that made sense. What I just
said. It did make sense. 100% made sense.
So you learning a technique. Say you're trying to develop a new kind of layer to your game, leg locks, anything. What's your process when you're starting to kind of maybe add something to you had that like smother choke, that mother's milk choke. You hit like what 3 times, right? Is that what it's called? Mother's milk?
That's what we call it in our gym.
So
what you guys call
it. Tim Kennedy calls it leche de padre.
There you go. Milk of the dad or something. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So like, let's talk something like that. I mean, obviously that's a unique submission. Not everybody can kind of hit.
Yeah.
How did you develop? What's that?
They can.
Okay. Well, you don't see it a lot, especially not 3 times.
The thing is, it's extremely easy to defend. Just post on the armpit and turn the other way.
I got
the
you.
issue is when you do that, you give them a fucking head and arm strangle, or you give them your back. So
yes,
a lot of people just get a little bit freaked out and they just don't want to be there. They get tapped with the smother.
Yeah. So that or another technique, how do you kind of go through the process of like really fine tuning it to where you can go in a tournament and hit it 3 times in a row?
you just have to practice it in training over and over again. Find stuff that works, find stuff that doesn't work. It never really works for me as much in training. I mean, I'm also not an asshole. I'm not trying to fucking smother tap my training partners, but it's more of a thing where you use it to set up a reaction to get yourself in another position, like take their back or strangle them with a head and arm. But whenever you're trying to learn new skills, first, if I just go out there and I try to hit a fucking technique on Nicholas Marigali, Gordon, Luke, Giancarlo, it's not going to fucking work because I just learned the shit. I'm going to have to go on somebody much weaker and somebody much less of skill than myself. I fine tune it. I'm like, okay, this works. I'm going to go on somebody a little bit better. Okay, this works. I'm going to go on somebody better. And you find what works at the lowest level or what works at the highest level. And through process of elimination, you see what techniques work, what techniques don't work. Like, what's the first technique you were taught in Jiu-Jitsu? Americana from mount. How many Americanas were there in ADCC? Probably not many. Nothing recent. So it's just stuff like that. You just have to do it for it takes about 6 months to develop a new skill in Jiu-Jitsu.
How often are you drilling that skill? If you have to kind of drill it, like how is it every day? Are you just spending a certain amount of time on that specific technique and then going on to something else?
We usually spend about a month at a time learning a family of techniques. But the thing is, I kind of just leave it up to my instructor based on what he sees, because the room changes all the time. Maybe he's teaching us something, we all kill it, and we don't need any more work on it. Well, what if we need to work on something else? So
makes sense. And when you kind of sort of touched on this, talking about like not using a smother on all your partners, are there like certain techniques that you maybe save for competition, or certain, I don't know, things that you do to people in competition that you don't do in the gym as much because you don't want to be an asshole?
Well, it's competition and training is different, but training has to look like competition to an extent.
Sure.
You don't want to, whatever works in the training room, I want it to work in the competition. And whatever I do in the competition, I want to do in the training room. But for example, I'm not going to be going crazy on my training partners trying to do something which I wouldn't normally do, because these are my friends. I love them.
Sure.
I sweat with them on a daily basis. But it's just more of a thing of training. Like, you don't train like an asshole with them. You train to get better and you train hard, but there is definitely a way to train with your teammates.
And then being a bigger fella. And again, this is more my thing. Like when I'm thinking about people, questions I get asked a lot, things that you might have some experience with as a bigger guy. Do you have situations where maybe people were scared to roll with you? I doubt it's the case now, because obviously you're in your room with guys that know you, but have there been situations where people were scared to roll with you? And as generally, how do you roll with smaller people? Like, how do you like adjust the way that you train?
Yeah, so I mean, I am much bigger, right? At first, when people didn't know who I was, nobody wanted to roll with me because I was fucking gigantic. And now everybody wants to roll with me because they know who I am, so they want to be able to roll with me. But the thing is, like, your size is more of a multiplying factor of how you roll. So let's say somebody could roll like a complete fucking asshole, and somebody could roll like the most controlled person ever. I've rolled with people who are much smaller, who are just fucking they're just bad to roll with. Like, they hit you the wrong way, like they accidentally take a knee, like they elbow you, and it's just like that. And I've rolled with people who are very, very big, who you could roll extremely hard with without the fear of getting hurt or them doing something stupid, or you taking a knee to the balls or something like that. It's just more of a thing of having self-control and actually using technique rather than just freaking out on somebody. And that's how, whenever you're rolling with people, it's just a thing. Because I could roll with some of the lighter guys just fine. We do situationals, we do leg locks, it's fine. You just move correctly, use the right technique, and it should be the same as rolling with anybody else.
Yeah. Do you you kind of mentioned like seeing new people, the room changes, people maybe noticing you a little bit? Has that been strange for you since you're starting to kind of win some of these competitions? Are you getting noticed more? Is that kind of a weird thing?
It is weird getting recognized, especially in public, whenever you're like at an airport or something, or whenever you're like just doing something mundane. It is like a weird feeling. Like, I'm just grabbing a coffee from Summer Moon in the morning and somebody's like, "Oh, what's up, Big Dan? Big fan." I'm like, "Oh, so nice to see you." It is definitely a little bit strange, and it's only going to get worse. But it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. As long as somebody treats you with the same level of respect they treat anybody else, I'm happy. I don't like being treated differently. So
Have you had any like weird like online trolls and stuff? So that was something where like when I started to get a little traction, I remember I would get some really strange messages sometimes.
yeah, I've gotten some weird stuff. You just don't pay any mind to it. When it comes to like actual life, real life, what I see on a database, it has so little overlap that it doesn't. Everybody deals with it, so you just look the other way. Don't give them any peace of mind. Everybody always has something to say. There's always something stupid floating around on the internet, blah blah blah, and it's just like anybody could say anything, and it doesn't matter.
For sure. What was the story behind you and that big fella last year? Kind of talking about like trolls and sort of like
Oh
friction,
yeah,
conflict. What was the story? Because I remember there was like, because I'll watch your feed. You're kind of a sarcastic guy, and anyway, right? And so it's fun, different seeing
but I am
different
very
stuff.
respectful. I am very respectful.
Yeah, no, you weren't like saying anything terrible, but it was like there's this thing where you kept re-showing it, and there was all these memes popping up and everything
Yeah.
else. What was the story behind that?
So this dude's just a complete piece of shit. He did all sorts of fucked up things. He threatened to kill Mo Jassim. He said all sorts of racist things about Mo's ethnicity and where he's from, and then all sorts of racist things towards me because I'm from Romania. And then he threatened to kill Mo. He did that. He threatened to kill me multiple times, and I have all the voice notes to record it. But the reason why this happened was because he slapped my teammate Taza after Taza beat him. So Taza beat him at the Europeans, and after he lost, he went like this, and then I mean I guess this means fuck you or something, and he smacked Taza, and I'm like, oh, okay, So then I tried to set up a match with him, to the point of where I was going to put up 10,000, Mo Jastin was going to put up 10,000, Mike Cipriani was going to put up 50,000, so it was a $70,000 bet match against him,
Okay.
just for him to show up, and then he just wouldn't show up, and he just like would never want to compete against me. I just wanted to fight him outright just because he slapped my teammate. It just wasn't correct. He got banned from ADCC. He got banned from IBJJF. He got banned from IJJF for slapping AJ Agazarm. And he's just been known for doing all sorts of like fucked up things in Norway. And then he got bullied by me, and then he never said a thing to me after I picked him up, slammed him on his face and strangled him. But yeah, that dude's just a total cunt. Just like asshole. And he's a bully until he gets put in his place.
I didn't know what this was, and then I remember like McDojo did a little video on it, breaking it down, because I think he's had some other issues, but I mean that's like sportsmanship. I mean I've never well, yeah, exactly. I mean it's just like I wonder what the people. I don't even really wonder. I mean it's just like the people are not going to want to be around you, associated with you if you act that way. I mean, especially a smaller guy, because I think he's a pretty big dude. He's a pretty big dude, so he seems like probably yeah,
but he ran into somebody bigger.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like again, it's like you hate seeing because it's like you're being a bully, like slapping Taz or AJ. Those are both like smaller guys, So it's I'm glad you took care of it.
And I was just having a fun time. I was just making funny memes about him. I do not talk shit. I very much am the furthest thing from somebody who talks on the internet. I like my life. I don't like talking bad about people, and I just like doing jiu-jitsu and having a good time. People always find a way to hate, but that's fine. I try my best to be a good person, but he pissed me off when he slapped my teammate. He really pissed me off. 100%. And I'm sure every single other person on my team, like Gordon said, if he ever saw him, it's a fight on sight. So you don't do stuff like that.
And so what kind of lifting do you do? I know kind of changing subjects, but I know you talked about lifting earlier. I've seen you, doing some lifting in different posts and stuff like that. And you talked about it earlier when you were injured. What kind of lifting style do you like to do the most?
So I have a coach now, my friend Ty, Mobility Monster, who does all my programming for me. But let's talk about jiu-jitsu, right? You're either pushing somebody away from you or you're pulling somebody towards you. And I just do a lot of push-pull, big compound exercises because I get bored easily. I don't necessarily want to be doing bicep curls. I don't care that much how I look. I'm more interested in strength and endurance. So my thing is I'll go on the bar, load up some plates, and put some bench out because I'm going to be pushing people away from me, right? That works a bunch of muscles at one time. It's a lot more effective than just doing some tricep extensions. The best tricep extension of all is pushing a bar away from your chest. And then I'll do deadlifts, rows, all those things to work my back, and that's my favorite. And just working different push-pull muscle groups was a thing that I found was just the absolute best for making real strength.
What are you doing for recovery? Like, how do you, if you have a really tough training session or you're sore from lifting, are you incorporating some recovery work into your kind of daily routine or weekly routine?
I try to hit the sauna every night, but I was having issues with cramping. So that not as much. Sauna was excellent for recovery and especially for sleep. You get some of the best sleeps, but it's more of a thing like being sore is not going to hurt you. It's just going to be unpleasant. So toughen up.
Do you do ice baths at all?
No, I'm a pussy with ice baths. I lasted 6 seconds in an ice bath. I got in. I'm like, nope, got right out. Fuck that.
Oh, really? Is that it? That was the only time you did it?
Yeah, last time too. Fuck that.
Oh man,
no,
I love it.
It's intense. Yeah,
I was talking so much shit to my. Yeah, I'll spend 5 minutes in this damn thing. What y'all talking about? Get out of here. I got in. I'm like, nope. I got right out. I hate ice baths. They
probably should have turned up the heat a little bit before you put it maybe like 45 instead of probably like 30 or whatever.
You might as well go like super cold.
They put it to 32.
32. Yeah, that's
experience.
Yeah, 32. Yeah. So you gotta ease people into that because it's 32 straight out of the gate, man. That's I mean, this morning mine was reading at like 36 or something, which is
fuck that.
That's still cold, but like I started it off at like 50 and then took it down to 45, and then over the course of a few weeks, like kind of got it down.
50 sounds refreshing.
50 like in the middle of the winter. If I turn on my faucet, it's about 52 for a cold shower.
Yeah, that's all right.
So that's not too bad. I mean, it'll still, like, if you're not used to it, it's still cold. But
yeah, it's not 32. It's not 32 degrees.
Yeah.
Dan, how would you like, as far as training with John and kind of learning from him, what's one thing maybe you took away from his teaching style and something that maybe that you do that's unique when you teach or as an instructor?
Yeah, so all of John's students basically teach roughly the same. Everybody has their own personalities and the way they teach, but what I loved about John was his, and this was actually one of my biggest issues, was not an issue, but it's just a factor, as John has such a huge pursuit of perfection in every single thing he does. Every single technique he does, he just wants perfection to the fucking highest degree. Like if there's one little key detail on hand placement, knee placement, whatnot, that makes the technique better, he wants that. He just wants to create the highest level of jiu-jitsu that he possibly can. What I respect the most about him is John's dedication to the game. Just how long he's been doing jiu-jitsu and how honest he is with his students. He hasn't charged me a dime to be my instructor, and he's there for me every day. Comes in early in the morning, teaches me, and everybody else teaches at 3 for free, doesn't charge anything to his competitors, just wants you to show up every day. And John hasn't made any fucking money off of me, probably never will. He just wants to see his students do well. We can never really repay him for all the stuff he's done for us.
That's awesome. It reminds me of I'm reading a book right now about like Carlson Gracie.
Yeah,
a lot of the guys felt the same way. They were like back in this heyday when like the champions were getting produced, and that wave of champions he had, it was the same thing. Guys that weren't charged anything, and again, it sort of instills a certain loyalty to that because they're going out of their way for you.
Yeah, I mean, John could live such an easy life right now. He has a lot of money. He does well off of his instructionals. He doesn't have to teach us no more. He just hang out, eat at nice restaurants, do what he likes. Instead, he decides to wake up at 7 in the fucking morning with a hip replacement, arthritis, neck issues, knee issues, no ACL, fucking all sorts of shit, just to go and teach us to make sure that we're doing all right.
But that's his mission, though, right? And like a man without a mission, I mean, like you go eat nice restaurants or whatever, but it's like the dudes when they retire and they just kill over and die because they don't have a mission anymore.
He just wants to see us do well.
Yeah.
And he genuinely, the happiest moments of his life is watching his students win. Like I see John smile I see him happy, but it's like the moments I've seen him the fucking happiest is whenever like people have won major world titles or won an important match.
What's been one of your proudest moments? What do you think for yourself and maybe for him that you've accomplished? Like what's maybe one of your proudest achievements so far?
Winning trials with my teammate Luke was definitely the best moment of my life by far, because we both won, submitting all but one of our opponents, and we both won our way to ADCC after all the bullshit we had to go through. Like it was a rough couple of fucking months, coming off of knee surgery, so I had severe COVID that landed me in the hospital
Oh, wow.
But I lost like 30 pounds in a week and a half. My blood pressure was at like 160, 170. My heart rate was stuck at 160. I was fucking sick. Went down to 240, which isn't healthy for me, being 240, because I'm like 270. Now I'm 280. But after everything, to win trials, have me and Luke both win trials together, that was a good fucking feeling. That was a really fucking good feeling. And I hope to do it again with him in September.
Yeah. Are you, as far as like training goes now, like, are you specifically training for that rule set? I mean, you're doing some of the ADCC opens, doing some other stuff. And like, how much of that has been beneficial for you? And also, do you try to kind of scale it back a little bit to not maybe show your game or maybe a little more?
It's not me. It's John who handles all of our training.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily know as well. But definitely we change training based on what kind of rule set we're going into. Like, for example, if we're going into ADCC, we're fucking training ADCC positions. If we're going into an EBI tournament, we're training EBI rounds. If we're going into something where it's like a referee's decision match, we're doing open rounds, stuff like that.
What do you feel like is your favorite, or something maybe you just gravitate towards that you really enjoy?
Like a favorite rule set?
Yeah, like what rule set do you like?
Well, yeah, there's no other rule set besides ADCC that's really, as well thought out and important. It's clear, simple, concise, rewards action, and allows you to take risks early on without the threat of getting in trouble. So
here's a question for you, like, because this is something I always think about, like when you look at a lot of grappling sports, as they go on, like let's say for instance with wrestling, from the high school level to the Olympic level, the time frame of that match, the duration of it does not extend, it doesn't quadruple or anything like that, right? With jiu-jitsu matches, there's this thing where, you might have a white belt match that's 5 minutes or something, right?
Yeah.
And then by the time then you get into, like, say, the World Championship, ADCC super fights, these can potentially be, 20, 30, 40-minute long matches, and they're incredibly long. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I have mine, but what are your thoughts on like the jiu-jitsu matches getting longer and longer? Do you think it would be better for the spectators and the people watching to have a slightly shorter match, maybe not quite so long? Or do you think that the longer matches have some inherent advantage with them?
Everything has its pros and cons. Shorter matches are obviously going to be a little bit more exciting, but it's easier to stall somebody out for that long and edge somebody to a decision. What I always thought was somewhere a little bit more on the medium short side. I like 10, 12-minute matches. That's what I always like. That's what I thought. Like, if you can't get jiu-jitsu done in 10 to 15 minutes, that's on you. I really thought that that's my personal favorite. But the issue is, if you have a big tournament with hundreds of matches going on, how the fuck are you going to have a 15-minute match? So I just feel like for more important tournaments, having a short to medium match up to 15 minutes, this is just my opinion. I very well could be wrong and incorrect and defer from everybody else. But having a match is like 10 to 15 minutes gives a perfect amount of time for people to work and get something done. Whereas maybe earlier on in the show, having shorter matches. Now, going up to like 40 minutes, like that's just a long fucking match. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. ADCC is fantastic. It's a great rule set. People win. And at the end of the day, fuck all the rules. Like, you're trying to submit somebody.
Sure.
So.
No, I agree 100%. I think that I just think about that because, like, even like say the ADCC championship, like with some of the matches, because the guys, they're playing the rules and they're being intelligent about it. It starts off like, because like, let's say we're doing like a longer match, we're starting off and there will be, just a lot of hand fighting in the beginning. And then once the points go into it, it becomes a lot more aggressive.
Yeah.
And, it's that it's always that fear. If you go after the guy for the kill right out of the gate and, you come up a little short with the gas tank, I think, guys are always worried about that. So I think you're right. I think this is my opinion as well. Is like, I think a shorter to medium range, like sort of duration match would allow people to go wide open for the submission and not be worried about coming up short because they don't have that gas tank to go for a longer period of time if the guy was stalling on them.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think that's the best.
In your kind of, since you started training, is there one thing you wish you would have done differently, or maybe changed, or kind of, or do you feel like everything went the way it was supposed to go?
You always say, like, I wish I would have done things differently. But then again, it's like you could have done things differently and then got hit by a car walking down the street, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like you always have things you want to do differently, but it's never going to change. You're always going to say, oh, I wish I would have done this. Oh, I wish I would have trained more. I would have done that. But I'm pretty happy with the decisions I've made.
Nice.
And I can't change them. You can't go back in time, relive them, change some of the stuff that you've done. And ultimately, everything was something for a reason. Like, it would be great if I would have been training jiu-jitsu since I was 5 years old. I'm not 5 years old,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So you just have to live with what you have. And rather than focus too much on the past, try and focus on what you can do in the future.
Yeah, and that's a great point, and that, you know, kind of leads me to my next question. Like, if you've had a tough loss that you've dealt with, you know, on the jiu-jitsu mats, is there something you kind of look at? Is there a way you kind of work on moving past that, try to learn from it?
Yeah, you take losses that you're not the most proud of, but one of the things that I think about in my head is about, it's not where you start, it's about where you end. So it doesn't matter if you don't stop. You're judged by the end of your career, not by the beginnings of your career.
That's right. It's right. It doesn't matter how fast you start the race off. It
Mhm.
matters where you end at the end of it, right?
Yeah. So it's like whatever losses I've had before, if I finish jiu-jitsu, having won ADCC a few times, done what I wanted to do, and eventually have my own students that I can make into world champions, I'm happy.
So changing
Like
sort
Gordon's lost. Gordon's lost before.
Sure.
I'm sure he's lost a bunch of times, but
he ain't losing
Hold on.
anymore.
He's the GOAT.
not anymore. He ain't
Yeah.
losing no more.
He's one of the best dudes that's ever got on the mats.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what do you do? Like, I think it's important a lot of times, and maybe you know, I'm just curious because I know I talked to my my student Brandon, who came down there and trained with you, and you were
Oh yeah.
wanting to go hog hunting, right?
Yeah.
And I see the guns back there. So
Yeah.
I'm curious. I think it's good for guys to have like things outside of away from their thing, right? Because it gives them some space away from it. So like a lot of times, even with jiu-jitsu, I'm always doing jiu-jitsu all the time. I'll go like ride horses. And that, like, I'll have some of my best ideas for stuff when I come back from that, because I got my mind away from the things I'm always thinking about. Do you have some different hobbies outside of the gym that have nothing to do with jiu-jitsu, like hog hunting or something else?
I play the piano. I'm a very good pianist. I've been playing the piano for like 13 years. So that's a fun hobby. I like shooting. I like hunting. I like sports shooting. I like long distance. That's my favorite. I just had a Remington 700 built for me by Tim Kennedy and his partner Barry in 6.5 Creed. So those are my hobbies, but ultimately they're hobbies. And my favorite hobby of them all is jiu-jitsu.
Of course.
Yeah. But it is good to have some stuff outside of it. Also, it's good to have things that have some sort of overlap into real life. Like, let's say that something bad happens and I have to be able to defend myself. Well, I always have my pistol on me, and I'm very, very good with it. I know how to use it. I know how to clear jams. I know how to change out magazines quickly. I know how to get a shot on target very fast. It's one of those things where it's like, it could save my life one day. Whereas people think they know how to shoot until they actually have to go and shoot. You know, somebody decides to break into my house, they're in for a pretty fucking rude awakening.
That's right.
Playing the piano is nice because it's music, it's art, and it's nice to be able to make music and do something in your free time, something that's unique. It's just something that I always liked.
Sure.
And yeah, but that's really it. Stuff that has some overlay into real life. And I really do love shooting, and I love going hunting. I love the thrill of the hunt.
Do y'all do a lot of the hunting in Texas? I mean, what are y'all usually hunting out there?
Depends on the season. My favorite is deer hunting, because you find a place, find tracks, set up a blind, and get a deer when you see it.
Yeah, we got a lot of that in Kentucky too. A lot of deer hunting out here. But like, I wonder, is there anything unique in Texas that you guys hunt?
We have exotics, pronghorns with the long.
Huh.
Those are fun to hunt. Yeah, because you can hunt them year round.
Interesting.
They're considered exotics, so it's not a season for it, and you don't want to shoot a deer out of season. That's a bad idea. That's a real bad idea.
Interesting.
Well, and with a lot of those things too, like piano, I imagine, I don't play the piano, but I played the guitar, and it was very similar. And then, you know, shooting and working with guns, there's so many similarities. Like, again, obviously clear differences, but the idea of like skill, like you're developing skills, and there's so many similarities, right? Like where you're practicing something, getting your reps in with it. You know, even if you're doing like dry fire drills with your gun, you're doing reps, getting reps till it becomes to the point where it's automatic. And I imagine it's the same thing there. You start seeing, I think there's benefit in doing other skills that require the same sort of processes that then get you to understand what you're doing over here even better, because you're having these different sort of vantage points from it.
Yeah, and learning's learning. Like, I love learning. That's my favorite thing. Like, one of the things we follow is Kaizen, the idea of continuous growth and learning. You always want to keep learning new things, because when you stop learning stuff, you die.
Yeah. Dan, what do you have coming up, man? What's ADCC trials are coming up, and then like what else? Anything you have in the meantime that you're trying to focus on?
I have the ADCC Open in Vancouver this weekend. After that, I have the ADCC Open in Chicago, and then I have the ADCC trials in September 17th in Poland. That's going to give me my goal of 10 ADCC Open gold medals and a trials gold medal, and I really hope to achieve that.
If people want to get a hold of you, where can they do that? What's the best spot?
My Instagram is Jiu-Jitsu Giant. You guys could follow me, shoot me a message on there. I reply to most of the people. If I don't reply on the first message, just send me another one, and I'll definitely reply. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for having me on your podcast. I'm sorry for being late, and I'm sorry for cutting it early. It's just today's very hectic.
Do what you got to do, brother. Appreciate you. Bye. Later. You, dude. All right, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed that podcast. Hopefully you got something from it. There's a lot of, takeaways from that. And again, in particular, one of the things I liked was his thoughts on drilling and things like that, because that's something where, there's such a movement in jiu-jitsu, and I know what they're doing. Right. There's this idea in marketing circles. And so this is like marketing ideas, pulling back the curtain, right? There's this idea in marketing circles where you want to be the welcome guest, right? So basically, like, for instance, with dieting, here's an example. People don't want to hear that you need to exercise and be intelligent with it and eat in moderation and things like that. Nobody wants to hear that, right? So basically the welcome guest is like, hey, listen, all you got to do is, like Weight Watchers was like, count your points. Mm-hmm. Okay, I just got to count points. I can eat whatever I want to as long as I count the points. Or you can say, no, you just got to not eat carbs. Eat whatever else you want to eat, bacon and beef, whatever you want to eat, just eat it. Just no carbs. Or, you can say, only eat this, that, whatever, right? There's all these simple rules and that are easy for people to follow. And that's like welcome advice. Oh, yes, that's what I need. And so people hate drilling. I personally don't. But I've learned to associate it with the benefits that I get from it.
Sure.
And again, drilling doesn't mean just doing the technique over and over again, but again, practicing the technique. There's also different forms of active drilling where you have a partner working with you. But drilling is not as fun as rolling. It's very monotonous and stuff like that. But I associate it very much like people do with coffee, right? People drink coffee and they continue to drink it because, again, it gets them buzzed up. They say they like the taste, and we do like the taste, but we like the taste because we get high from it, right? It's like cigarettes. I was talking to a guy who used to smoke. He's like, smoking's disgusting.
Yeah.
He's like, man, he goes, first time I ever smoked, it was disgusting. But then like you start getting high from it and you start liking the taste of it. So you start liking the taste of the tobacco.
You associate the benefits with the activity.
Right. It's like basically with something like coffee. I've never seen someone drink a black cup of coffee their first time ever drinking it and go, man, this is delicious.
Dude, I hated it. I hated coffee. And now I'm like, I enjoy it. Yeah. I enjoy like a warm cup of coffee in the morning. It's kind of like soothing. Yeah,
but why is that?
I just,
because we're addicted.
Yeah. And it's part of my routine. I don't drink, I'll maybe drink a cup. Like very, very.
No,
low.
I'm a cup guy too,
but I like it. Yeah,
no, I get it, but it's just anyway. And that's the way that I like drilling. I know some of you guys are really getting angry. People get really defensive when you tell them that they're addicted. People get addicted to coffee, and they get like.
Sure, you are. Try not to do coffee for a week.
Well, I know, but people will say, "Oh no, I'm not addicted. I just really like the taste." I'm like, "Sure, you do. You're addicted. It's fine. It's totally fine."
I don't like alcohol. I just like the taste of alcohol.
Exactly.
No one ever.
Right. No, people say that stuff. I've heard alcoholics say that. I just really like the taste. I mean, I like the taste, but
some people probably do.
I mean, I really like the taste of some of the tequilas I have, but why do I like the taste of it? Because it gets me drunk. At least gets me a little buzz. But anyway,
thimbleful gets chewy.
That's it. I sniff it.
Sniff it. He's on the floor.
But going back to it, that's the reason why I like drilling. Again, it's one of those things where, yes, it can be monotonous. Yes, whatever. But like when you hit that technique, during training and it feels good and feels fluid, you're like, that's your association with it. And so it was cool to hear that, because again, he's doing really well for himself, and it's cool to hear people fight against that idea where a lot of jiu-jitsu people are, oh, you don't need to drill, just go and roll, it's fine, whatever. And some people can get away with that, but I think more likely than not, you would be benefited by drilling your techniques. Speaking of which, if you guys want to get an ebook on drilling, some drilling strategies that you can use, and also some ideas on building a game plan, you can go to my website at chewjitsu.net/join, JOIN. I have an offer there where you just put in your email address. After you do that, you'll get the 2 free ebooks. One of them is on drilling strategies, and then afterwards, you'll get my daily email, which you can unsubscribe from at any time. But again, thank you guys for joining us on the podcast. Big thanks to our sponsors, Charlotte's Web CBD. If you've never tried CBD, or if you've tried other CBDs and you would like to try a really pure and reputable product, a product that is third-party tested, that puts its product through more strenuous testing than what's necessary for an unregulated product, then go to charlottesweb.com. Look through what they have. They have everything from tinctures and gummies to different products in their Recreate line, which combine different nutritional supplements with CBD, to a broad spectrum CBD that doesn't have the same sort of THC profile, which is safe for a lot of people for testing. And again, whatever it is that you're wanting, and if you want it, you can get it with 20% off using the promo code Jiu-Jitsu20. Also, if you're looking to get some new gear or Jiu-Jitsu apparel, you can go to epicrollbjj.com. Our buddy Matt is a sponsor of this podcast, and he runs a great company. They've got great designs, good quality stuff, and awesome customer service. And you can get whatever you like at 15% off on their website using the code Chewjitsu at checkout. And if you guys are a man, or a man in your life that would like to step up their grooming game with the best grooming products for men out there in the market, you can go to manscaped.com. I've used everything that they have on their website just about, and I've liked everything. For some of you guys that came to my recent jiu-jitsu camp, and if you went downstairs in my bathroom in the basement, you probably saw all the Manscaped lotions and sprays and deodorants and everything else. And again, I use that stuff. And so again, if you want to check them out, you can go to manscaped.com. And if you find something you want, 20% off the order using Jiu-Jitsu20, and you get free shipping. And last but not least, guys, if you want to support the podcast directly, go to the Patreon that we have set up for the podcast at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Again, you get a lot of different stuff in that membership, tons of different content, an ad-free episode of the podcast. And there's also a jiu-jitsu stretching and warm-up routine that could be very useful for, again, priming your body for training, or you could even use those stretches and exercises, holding the stretches a little bit longer and use it as a cool down or a stretching routine to help aid recovery. So again, that's in there, and it takes only about 20 minutes to do. So again, guys, that's the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll talk to you next time.